So the third round of the NFL draft just ended, which means the Packers now have 5 new players on this roster, 1 drafted in round 1, 2 in round 2, 2 in round 3. And so I want to give my overall thoughts and takeaways on what Brian Gutekunst and the Packers did with these draft picks they had in these first 3 rounds. And with the Aaron Rodgers trade last year, the Packers, of course, had some more trade capital, having another second-round pick this year, just like they did the year prior. The Packers had a ton of the ability to do lots of different things if they wanted to. They did move back in round 2, pick up an additional 5th and 6th round pick by only moving back 4 spots, similarly to what they did last season. But now let's talk about the first 3 rounds here for the Packers. So to start off with Jordan Morgan, I love the pick. I think that to get an offensive lineman, it was very necessary for this Packers team that lost a lot of players this offseason. David Bakhtiari, John Runyan Jr., Yosh Nijman. Their starters were somewhat solidified. The only, I'd say, questionable spot right now maybe is Sean Rhyan at right guard. And with Jordan Morgan, you have a guy who can play all 4 spots. Brian Gutekunst talked about it in his press conference post-draft after round 1 that they believe Jordan Morgan can play all 4 positions when it comes to guard and tackle any of those spots. And so odds are, if Rasheed Walker and Zach Tom, keep their tackle spots, Jordan Morgan could come in and be that right guard. Now, there's a chance as well, maybe he beats out Rasheed Walker at left tackle because Morgan did have a ton of experience there playing left tackle at Arizona. That's a possibility as well. But the Packers now have a much more depth when it comes to this offensive line room, which was one of the biggest needs coming into this draft. And the Packers stay there at 25. They decide not to go with any kind of cornerback or safety in round 1. They get a offensive lineman that they really liked. I made an entire video sharing what Brian Gutekunst had to say. And you could just tell by watching that press conference how much Brian Gutekunst and his Packers front office values Jordan Morgan and what they think he can be in the NFL. And so you can never go wrong protecting your quarterback, and that's exactly what the Packers did, which I think was much needed. And then round 2, I love round 2. What the Packers did tonight in round 2, very, very solid. To get 2 positions of need, linebacker with Devondre Campbell gone, moving to a 4-3, 3 middle linebackers, and then to also get a safety, which is much needed to pair alongside Xavier McKinney and Javon Bullard. Honestly, the second round couldn't have gone much better in my mind. And you look at this new defense with Jeff Hafley, and we all knew the Packers needed to add another linebacker, add another safety. That was sort of the weak spot of this defense, an areas where there weren't a lot of depth. And so to be able to get 2 players in round 2 that'll probably be starters in 2024, I mean, that's huge for this Packers team. And to be able not only, as I talked about earlier, to move from 41 to 45, only 4 spots back, you get a 5th and 6th round pick. And, sometimes with those picks, you don't know what's going to happen. Maybe they don't pan out, but as we all know, Dontavian Wicks, round 5 pick, now he's looking like maybe he should have been a second rounder potentially. So you never know what can happen there. And so when you have that ability to trade back, the Packers clearly trusted their draft board to trade back a few spots, and they still get Edgerrin Cooper. And so I really love that move to get those additional draft picks, but then to get 2 solid starters who should be able to contribute in 2024 in their first season. So I love that. And I just think when you look at this Packers safety position, Xavier McKinney going to be a stud for a few seasons with that contract he signed with the Packers as a free agent this offseason. And now you have an ability to bring in Javon Bullard and in the first year with Jeff Hafley to build some chemistry with those guys, allow those guys to grow together in this scheme in their first year. And imagine what could happen in the future if Bullard and McKinney mesh well, things go well on this defense at safety year 1. Imagine what's going to happen as Bullard, grows into himself and, develops as he spends more time in the NFL. This is, a unit here at safety that could be here in Green Bay for, 3, 4, 5 years potentially if things go well. And so I think that opportunity to get a guy like that, a young safety that you can pair with a veteran in McKinney, is very intriguing. And we heard Brian Gutekunst talk about that a little bit earlier this offseason about how he liked the idea of bringing another young guy in there, some young guys who you have time to develop and grow. And so I love the move there. I love having Edgerrin Cooper there. Seems like a tough, physical linebacker, solid against the run, which you love to see. And so I think round 2, Gutekunst, the Packers knocked it out of the park. Honestly, couldn't have gone much better. And then round 3. Now going to round 3, when you look at the first 2 rounds, honestly, the biggest needs pretty much hit. Offensive line, safety, linebacker, all 3 positions taken in the first 2 rounds. And so with that being the case, round 3, in my mind, there wasn't necessarily something that I thought needed to happen. And so they come in, they get a running back, Marshawn Lloyd. Wasn't sure when they would take a running back this draft. They, of course, bring in Josh Jacobs, have A.J. Dillon, Emmanuel Wilson. It's a pretty loaded room already. So it's interesting to bring in Marshawn Lloyd. I think that he could become that second guy with Josh Jacobs. He's definitely going to compete for that second spot. Seems to be a really solid, explosive player out of the backfield. And so that could be an interesting pairing with Josh Jacobs. And, maybe in a couple seasons with Josh Jacobs getting older in a couple years, maybe in 2 years he's out of Green Bay. Who knows? We don't know exactly how things will go with him. Hopefully things go well. But now you have another young stud, another young player in there who could potentially take over in a few seasons if you need him to. And so it's nice to get a talent there where you have some flexibility in future years. And then also getting another linebacker, Tyron Hopper. Honestly, didn't know too much about this guy. The Packers clearly value him highly, more so than PFF, who had him ranked at 191. They pick him 100 spots higher than PFF had him ranked. But I assume there's a reason. I honestly, as I said in my video, breaking down round 3, I just trust Brian Gutekunst. He's shown us that he knows what he's doing. They spend all their time doing this, and so I'm curious to see what it is about Hopper that they like specifically. But the Packers, where they come into this draft, had a huge need at linebacker, inside linebacker, and now they leave in the first 3 rounds. Still got 4 rounds left. In the first 3 rounds, they get 2 inside linebackers. So there's no longer a need at inside linebacker. So all in all, I'll give this draft through the first 3 rounds a solid A. I love everything that has happened so far. The Packers hit lots of big needs. The defense got tons of 2 guys who probably will start some point next season, maybe right when the season starts. And so it's nice to get guys where they're going to come in right away and make an impact and make a big impact. And you also have an offensive lineman who could also start right away in Jordan Morgan. And then you get a few nice, interesting pieces in Lloyd. I've seen some of his highlights, and he looks explosive, looks exciting, and you can never have enough explosive players on your offense. So all in all, I love what the Packers have done in this draft so far. Couldn't have gone much better in my mind. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Stay tuned for more Packers draft content. Make sure you turn on your post notifications. That way when I make any of these Packers news updates, you get notified on your phone right away. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you guys next time.